Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Smack Talk. Um, we are going to try our show for a third time. Hopefully, we can get this stuff figured out. Um, yeah, because I'm not sure what is going on. Um, but if we get everything figured out, we are going to recap some of the stuff from last night and also talk a little XFL 2.0 football. Um, so if we can get Lone Wolf going here with being able to hear him, he will join us. Hopefully. Again, for some reason, looks like I don't know if it's on his end or my end, but hopefully we get this figured out soon. So he can hear me, so that's a good sign, but I can't hear him. So it says you are still offline, Lone Wolf, when it goes to the call-ins on the call-ins. So that's why I can't hear you. You need to call in.
All right, let's try that.
There we go.
All right, yeah, we got it.
All right. So
Technical difficulties solved.
We'll get this down. We'll get this down here. So, yeah. So last night we discussed. Start off with the unfortunate news of Kobe Bryant passing away along with his daughter. Just to briefly summarize, I talked more about, the world lost a great man, not just a great basketball player. And it'll, I think his loss you'll feel those effects for years to come within the community.
Right.
We saw him grow up. I mean, we're his age. We grew up with him.
Mm-hmm.
So
he was born in 1978, just like me, man.
Right. So, what are your thoughts, on this tragedy?
Well, I think that I was thinking about this quite a bit since this happened, and obviously all the sports stations, things right now on ESPN, they're playing one of Kobe's games. That's all tribute to Kobe and the basketball player. But I think you hit something there. It's definitely more a tragedy as a human tragedy than anything else. I mean, my daughter was watching it with me yesterday, and she commented that it really bothered her that there were some 13-year-old girls who had died in this helicopter crash too. And so I didn't want to lose sight of that when talking about this, because I think that, as people had referred to, it's his second act, right? He was done as a basketball player, but he was creating something that I think was going to be even more meaningful for a lot of different people in the community. And that's where the effects will be felt for a really long time, that, he didn't get the chance to play that out over the next 20 or 30 years of his life. And I think you were going to see that, but now it's been tragically cut off because of what happened. So.
Right. And I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
It is, you look at all the stuff he did for, the Los Angeles community, the underprivileged kids, that, you can't replace that. And,
No.
What bothered me today as I was going through, the different news stuff on different news sites, there was some reporter, and he should be fired and never hired again, posted an article about the rape allegations way back. How he was lied about that, and I was like, "Are you serious?"
Right. Right.
That's despicable. That's poor reporting.
Yeah.
That guy should never be hired,
Yeah.
or be allowed to report ever again. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't called for, but
Yeah, I
um,
mean, there are times that people, watch TMZ because they want to see how people screw up with their lives, but when somebody dies like that, it just, it's in really poor taste to go back to something like that. It's already been talked about, went through the legal system. It's all done. So, let's not talk about that aspect of it. I don't think it's fair. Yeah.
so that's how we started off last night.
Sure.
Kind of a somber way to start off a show, but
Yep.
it was the big story of the day. So I figured
Yeah.
we needed
Got
to
to
get
touch on it. You really
need to
do.
get it
Yeah.
out there. So then we shifted gears, talked about the Pro Bowl,
Okay.
and I don't know what the NFL does to fix this. And we had some listeners in the chat last night
Sure.
talk about how it's just an exhibition, and that's right. But
Yeah.
you have to make it mean something. I
Right.
didn't look at ratings, but I bet if we looked at the ratings over the Pro Bowl over the last 20 years, they've been horrible.
Yeah.
You're getting attendance now because you moved it out of Hawaii to Orlando, which is a
Right.
tourist mecca. Um, but you're still not getting, in my opinion, anything worth out of that. So a couple of things that I jotted down. How
Mm-hmm.
do you make this more intriguing? First of
Right.
all, we'll talk about a few other things they did yesterday in the game, but just overall ideas. What I look at it, can you do something like the NBA does? Make it a futures game. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you elect to start all these guys to the quote unquote Pro Bowl, but let's be honest, Drew Brees didn't want to play in that game last night. He went down
No.
there for a vacation, for a check. All those veterans did. So what about a
Yeah.
futures game? So, you have players that are 1 to 3 years in the league that aren't really known, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and let them play, let them showcase themselves, because some of them could be, free agents, could get released in training camp next fall,
Sure.
um, and let teams really see them, out there. My other thought was just make it a free agent game. Only guys that are going to be free agents play. And guess what? You don't think guys are going to go out there if they have a showcase against other free agents at similar positions to try to get a bigger contract than them? I think that could
Sure.
be an interesting twist. What are your thoughts on what they could do to make this game, you know, I guess mean something for the players? Because let's be honest, it's a glorified two-hand touch football game.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see that if you watch any of it. Guys aren't really tackling that hard, and they're not going that hard. So,
Right.
yeah, well, that's the thing though, too, right? So, I mean, they've played the entire season, and this is the end for most of them. Um, and so they go out there, and they're not going to want to play that hard going into the off season. They don't want to get injured. They don't want to risk that. Like you said, it doesn't have any meaning. Other than the only thing that I think matters to some of these guys in terms of going to the Pro Bowl is it might be an incentive in their contract. Like, I've made 5 Pro Bowls, so that's another zero when it comes to my contract, or that's a
Right.
bonus or something like that. Um, and I think the idea has been explored of doing like a Major League Baseball kind of thing. You put it in the middle of the season, and you make home field contingent on it. But I don't know if that's ever something that football is going to do.
I,
You
I
know,
don't. I have a hard time seeing that because, in baseball, it's you maybe play an inning, in football, you're banging around, you're
Right.
hitting, the having it in the middle of the season for like baseball, basketball, even the kind of hockey, I
Yeah.
think it's a little easier. With
Yeah.
football,
When you're playing that many games. Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get owners ever say, yeah, let's have our guys play a game in the middle of the season for an exhibition.
Right.
You're never going to get that. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, you could, but I don't think that would happen. Um,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and so I could see that. I mean, if you give them some incentive, you could try to have free agents go out there. I don't know if even that'll work if you take that away, because at the same time, some of these guys want to say, "Hey, I was an 8-time Pro Bowler." So if you
well,
just put those free agents out there, I don't know.
well, what I'm saying is you could still have those guys elected to voted into the Pro Bowl, like
Oh,
like
sure, okay,
like normal. But instead of having them play the game,
sure.
invite free agents to play in the game.
Oh, I got you. Okay, so
You
make it
know
a
what I'm saying?
meaningful game with people who care and they want to,
Right.
showcase
But
themselves.
but
I got you. Yeah,
but you can still have these guys that don't really want to play the game be the Pro Bowl roster. But
sure,
okay,
right,
we're gonna
yeah,
have these guys actually want to go out there and try to show
yeah,
teams what they have.
sure, sure.
You know, because to be honest, I don't think I've ever watched a full Pro Bowl.
I don't even think I have either. I mean,
so
it's just
so
yeah,
you know, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. I know they keep making changes. I think the most interesting thing
right,
about the Pro Bowl this weekend was the dodgeball game, to be
right.
honest. So, so
that or the Zadarius Smith and all Kobe tribute after the strip
yes,
sack. Yeah.
yes. So on that, I wanted to get your feelings on the experimental onside kick rule.
Okay.
I don't know if you read about that or even watch it. So what they experimented with, and I didn't watch it, to be honest. I don't even know if this thing was used last night or yesterday or whenever it was played. That's how much I care about the Pro Bowl. But
Right.
so what they're saying is, instead of doing onside kicks, you basically get 4th and 15 from your own 25-yard line.
Oh, right. Yep. I see that. Yeah. Yep.
If you get the first down, you keep the ball. If you don't, the other team gets the ball.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm really fond of that rule.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing. I mean, I don't know if it adds more spice to the game or it doesn't, because you're giving somebody a chance, but then if not, I mean, then the other team gets possession right there. Now, it's from your own 25, so really, I mean, you could potentially be giving it up right there at the 25, depending on if it is, incomplete pass or something, which I don't know. I mean, like if you do an onside kick, usually you don't have that bad of an onside kick. Well, you don't even kick from the 25, so you're
Right.
probably not going to have it at the 25 if you do an onside kick. You give it to them at the 50 or something at worst.
Right.
So
Exactly. So, I don't know. That rule, I don't know. I kind of like onside kicks the way they are. I think they make them exciting. I think this is just another way. I know the NFL is going to come out and say, "Oh, it's player safety, blah blah blah." Don't give me
yeah,
that. The NFL, you really, if were 100% player safety, there'd be a lot bigger rule changes than onside kicks.
yeah. I mean, they've tried to move the kicks out of football. They've tried to take the kickoff stuff away a lot, and then the punts and stuff like that too. I mean, they've tried to eliminate that as much as possible with a lot of the rule changes they've made. I don't know if I'm in favor of this or not. I kind of feel like the onside kick. It's one of those things where you use it as a surprise sometimes, and it kind of gives that edge, like a fake punt. Just doing something like that to kind of throw somebody off. And then you get that opportunity and you do it, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, wow, hey, yeah, okay, I want a trick play. I want to see something exciting. It adds a
Right.
little more excitement or spice to it. So I don't know if this will work.
So that'll be interesting to see if they do. I know Denver, wants to try that to implement that
Yeah.
as a regular thing and so we'll see what the owners say in the off season to that. The second rule was the false start, non-false start rule. So basically, if you're a flex player and you flinch, but you reset yourself, it's not going to be considered a false start.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you're saying receivers aren't going to false start unless they take a step forward across the line of scrimmage. Last night I was talking about how as a coach,
Mm-hmm.
um, to me, if a receiver flinches, it should be a penalty. It seems like we're instead of making players become more disciplined and get better, we're just going to be, we'll change the rules so they don't have to get better.
Yeah.
My fear is that this kind of rule where you can move and then set yourself real quick is eventually going to morph into something like the Canadian Football League, where you have guys running towards line of scrimmage at the snap of the ball.
Right.
And I don't know if that's a road the NFL wants to go down. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I'd much rather say, a false start's false start. You don't want a false start. Teach
I think
your
it's
kids.
kind of funny because you say that, and I was like thinking arena football. I was like, that's what I was thinking. I kind of want to. I don't know. I kind of disagree a little bit, just because I want to. I mean, I agree with the discipline aspect. I think that some of that is being lost by doing it that way. But there are some games where I just feel like the receiver should be able to move around a little bit. A lot of times on those motions and everything, the receiver is still going and they're in motion, and there's certain intricacies to that, and as to whether or not a person can be in motion or whatever based on the rules. But I guess unless it's blatant, I'm okay with that a little bit more. Maybe just letting him kind of move around a little bit more. I don't know if the NFL is doing that because they think they have too many false starts and they want to eliminate some of that from the game, so they allow the game to flow a little bit better, maybe.
Well, the weird thing though, it's false starts for flex. It says a flex player.
Oh, okay. So what the heck does that mean then? Yeah.
Right. It in the rule, it doesn't specify what a flex player is.
Okay.
Is that just the outside receiver? Is it somebody
Sure.
that maybe even be a yard outside the tackle, but in a 2-point stance?
Sure.
Okay,
so that's a little bit problematic, because what if it's a tight end? I don't know. I mean,
right.
It could be anybody.
So a little bit that like I said,
could be an extra offensive lineman that could be eligible as a receiver.
I just think
I don't know. Yeah, that's
a good
point. That's a good point.
Keep adding rules and then changing rules, and then there's well, if XYZ happens, then this rule is in effect. If this happens, this rule effect. Then people wonder why the fans get upset with the refs. Well, the refs are they're following the
doing
rules
what
that
told,
the owners set, but the fans don't understand the rules because they change them all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I'm just like, a false start's a false start. I agree. There's motion and stuff, and I think if they're in motion at the snap of the ball, which is legal,
right?
As long as they're not moving towards line of scrimmage. Now, if they're slightly moving towards line of scrimmage, the ref has the discretion not to call that penalty. If they call that penalty, they're kind of probably having a bad day and want to be a dick.
Yeah, a little ticky tack stuff.
That's just the way it is. So it'll be again that those two rules will be interesting to see, because I know those are rules they were experimenting with to see if they possibly wanted to implement them in the 2020 season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm less in favor of the experimental onside than I would be of any false start change, but I guess we'll have to see how that plays out. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing that if it means that there's potentially a little bit more I should say less penalties in a game if that's what it leads to, possibly. I think that's one thing that can really bog down a game. You got one side that has 18 penalties and the other side has 12 or something. It just feels like the whole game is dominated by penalties.
Right.
So maybe that's what they're trying to get rid of. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, I agree that discipline can't be lost. For teams that don't have a lot of penalties, then they're rewarded because they're more disciplined than the other team. So they should really benefit from that.
Right. So the last thing, I don't know, did you watch the game at all?
The Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
No,
Any of it?
I did not.
Did you see any highlights from it?
A couple, yes.
What the heck are they doing with the uniforms?
Yeah.
Those were the ugliest things
They were
I have
awful.
ever seen. Oh my
They
Lord!
were awful.
It looked. They were supposed to be gold. They looked like
Yeah.
mustard, like brown mustard.
They were horrid. Yeah.
Holy cow! So that was my last comment. That was just kind of a side note. Funny note.
Yeah, they got enough money to figure that thing out, man.
So, all right.
Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
And talk about NFL awards.
Perfect.
I think we can go through these a little bit quicker because there are quite a few things to touch on. I have at least 2 or 3 more topics that.
Yeah, no, this is a good one. I've been waiting for this one. This is a good one.
So let's start. we might as well. Let's start with Rookie of the Year. This should be an easy one. We should agree on this one. I'd be shocked if we don't agree on this one.
Okay.
Who is your Rookie of the Year? Who do you think is going to win that award?
Well, you give me yours, and then we'll see if I agree.
All right.
How about that?
I think this is a no-brainer. It's the only rookie you heard about week in and week out. He's still playing. It was a great pick. I think he should have went number 1 overall instead of Kyler Murray, but I would say it's Joey Bosa. Hands down.
Yeah, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. I wanted to put you on the spot before you put me on the spot. No, I agree. The guy has been a monstrosity when it comes to having to defend him on the offensive line. What do you do with somebody like him? He's always in there. He's always making plays. Hands down, no question. I don't think it's a contest between him and any other rookie that played this year.
Yeah, I just don't see. I can't even think of another rookie that even had half the year that Bosa has had. So let's move to Offensive Player of the Year. I think this is a kind of another no-brainer. I'll just throw it out there. I'm going to say it's Lamar Jackson. By far the best offensive season in my mind that any player's had. Not just this year, in recent memory. From a running, throwing standpoint. What are your thoughts on Offensive Player of the Year?
That's an interesting category to me because I think a lot of people will probably still put Lamar Jackson as MVP. Mm-hmm. And so if you do that, would you also put him as the Offensive Player of the Year? Because you got some other players like Michael Thomas or Christian McCaffrey who could potentially also be the Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, McCaffrey had an outstanding year, yes, on a losing team, but then you have a guy like Michael Thomas who was setting some records and was pretty amazing week in and week out. I only think he had 1 week where he had under 50 yards. Otherwise, he was lighting up everybody. Good and bad defenses didn't matter. He lit up the 49ers. So I want to agree with you, but I think there's some other room for debate when it comes to that particular category. Because I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you win one, I don't know that you're going to win the other. Although I don't necessarily know if I would make Lamar Jackson the MVP. So If I don't do that, then maybe I'll go with I'll agree with you and make him the offensive player of the year.
All right. Well, and we'll get to MVP, but
Sure.
I agree with you there. I'm under the mindset, you can win multiple awards. If you're
Sure.
the
Yeah.
best, you're the best.
Sure. Yeah.
Just because you win one shouldn't disqualify you from winning
No, I don't
the
think so,
next.
but I just yeah. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's
All
go
right.
with him. That's fine. I agree. There's some other very, very strong
Oh
candidates.
yeah.
It's not a no brainer like the rookie of the year, but
Right.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So this next category was tough for me.
Okay.
Defensive Player of the Year.
All
And the
right.
reason I say it was tough for me, there's wasn't really that one guy, bes-
Yeah.
I mean, besides Joey Bosa,
Right. Yeah.
that that week in and week out
Mm-hmm.
just dominated.
Sure.
Um, so I looked at some stats and I wrote this down. I think right after our divisional round preview, and I'm picking Logan Ryan of the Tennessee Titans.
Okay.
He was among the leaders in interceptions, among the leaders in tackles, among the leaders in passes defended. Um, and he just had in every category, his name was up towards the top. Um, and how he helped transform that Tennessee Titans defense this year, I would pick Logan Ryan. This is where I know we're going to have a debate because you could pick a number of players for that, but I would go with Logan
Right.
Ryan.
Right.
I think he had the best overall statistical season, and what he did in the playoffs was unbelievable for the
Right.
Titans. So
Right.
that would be my pick for Defensive Player of the Year.
Okay. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have a difference. Not that I'm disputing his year necessarily. He had a good year, but this is my pick, and it's not a guy that played on a team that made the playoffs. But I think you look at this guy, and he's developed over the last several years after he left the Patriots, and he's been consistent. And this year, he had an outstanding year for a team where they didn't dominate on the defensive side of the football. My guy's Chandler Jones. He had 19 sacks this year. He just a defensive presence on that side of the football. Like I said, for a team in the Cardinals that defensively wasn't really that great, but he had a lot of forced fumbles, tons of sacks, and on a team like that to be able to dominate like that. That was my thought. I look at him, and he's only gotten better every single year that he's been with the Cardinals, and he just had an outstanding year.
Yeah, and like I said, it'll be interesting to see who actually wins that category because
Yeah,
I don't know if there's not that one guy where you can sit there and be
right,
like, oh no, how can you say that? I think there's at least a dozen guys that you could put in that category, and you'd be like,
yeah,
yeah, I can understand that.
yeah,
So you're not going to get any
yeah,
argument from me on that. We have different ways of looking at it, which
right.
is fine. That's why we debate it.
That's right. That's why we're here. Yep.
So next, and I don't, to be honest, I do not have somebody for this because I could not think of one. Well, actually, I can think of one now as I'm just looking at the category.
Sure.
Comeback player of the year.
Okay.
Um, not he's a non-starter. And he technically, people say, well, it wasn't an injury from last year, but I think the injury that this individual had is a multi-year recovery, and he showed that he can be a very solid quarterback for any NFL team that needs a quarterback moving forward. That's going to be Teddy Bridgewater.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
what he did for the Saints when Drew Brees went down. I mean, he almost lost his leg a couple years ago. and
Mm-hmm.
his career was basically over. I was one of those people who said, "Oh, he's never gonna play again." Um, but he came back and he kept them in the hunt for a bye in the playoffs.
I mean, they won every game with him, so
So that would be my pick. I'm sure there's other guys out there. I just can't think of them.
sure.
There's not like that Eric Berry out there from coming back from leukemia and having an awful
Right,
year
right.
that I know of that I can think of. So, what are your thoughts on comeback player of the year?
I'll go with somebody else. I was kind of thinking about this a little bit earlier when we were talking about categories. My guy is going to be Ryan Tannehill. Because I look at him and I'm like, okay, so, and we talked about this before, where, you know, he was with the Dolphins and he had some talent, but it just never really worked out in Miami. And he goes to Tennessee, doesn't play behind Mariota, and then they make the switch. I think, among other things, I'm sure that they did that transformed their season. Way more efficient on offense, and he showed, especially in the playoffs, that he knew what his role was and he knew how to operate within that offense, and he was a smart enough quarterback, and he didn't make a lot of bad decisions. So I mean that would be my guy, because I think he was really maligned in Miami and got kind of a bad rap, but he showed he
All
could
right.
play. So
Okay. All right. Well, we both have quarterbacks.
yep, yep,
So, all right.
both good
So,
choices, I think.
yeah, and
Yeah,
who knows? There could be somebody that you know we didn't even think of that you know that
yeah, ends up winning it. Yeah, yeah,
wins it. Um, so next, we have two more official categories. I
right,
created a couple of categories that I want to do before we get to Coach of the Year and MVP. I want to
sure.
talk to what is your surprise team of the year?
Ooh, oh, I got to think about that a little bit.
Now that now I have a surprise team of the year and then a disappointed team of the year. So not so
Okay,
the
okay,
surprise is hey, well, wow, they're a lot better than I thought, and then the disappointing team would be obviously who underperformed
yeah,
most
yeah,
in your mind. So those are the two categories I want to talk to before Coach of the Year and MVP.
okay. Surprise team of the year. Man, just off the top of my head, I didn't really even think about this, but just off the top of my head, I'll say Green Bay. I mean, when LaFleur took over, there was a lot of questions about it. I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work out. And to me, I mean, being 13-3 and then being in the NFC Championship game under a first-year head coach, I was surprised. I did not think that they were going to be that good. I knew that they had talent on their roster, but I didn't. I thought maybe, okay, 10 wins would be a great season for a first-year head coach, and I was surprised by what they ended up happening. So that would be my pick. What about you?
I'm probably gonna go with probably the cliche pick, but I'm gonna go with the Titans.
Okay.
I did not think with Vrabel coming in and the changes, and I had no stock in Mariota. I kind of written off Tannehill as a washed up quarterback. So I thought, holy cow, this team's gonna regress. They're gonna be maybe 4 or 5 wins, top 10
Yep.
draft pick. They'll draft a quarterback and build for the future. So the way they were able to make changes and motivate those players and get to the AFC Championship game was an absolute shock to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love how they went about it, but I did not expect them to even make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
So that'd
Yeah.
be my surprise team of the year.
Sure. Yeah.
So what would be your disappointing team of the year?
Man, there's a, there's a lot.
there are a lot of choices, but you only can have one.
They can only pick one. Yeah, you know, this is a tougher category because there's several that you could say. Now, expectation wise, I think there are some that, like teams like the Giants or the Bengals, they didn't have good years, but I don't think anybody really expected them to have good years. So my pick for most disappointing, even though they've been disappointing for so long, is the Browns.
Oh, the Cleveland Browns. Hey, they
The
won
Cleveland
something.
Browns.
They won something this year.
What? Look at that, a
Some-
couple games, yeah.
well, no, they
Oh,
won
they
your
won the disappointing team. They won an
Team of the
award.
Year
Yeah.
award.
Yes, Cleveland. Cleveland, you're not hopeless completely. You won something. You're completely disappointing. Yeah, I mean, look at it last year. Kitchens takes over as the interim, and then he's the coach or whatever. It just, it didn't work. It probably wasn't the right hire, and they continue to disappoint. But what the worst thing is, I think, is that they gave Cleveland fans hope again, and then they just tore it away from them one more time.
They they
So,
tore they tore that hope. They took that Valentine and ripped it right up.
which and this is a bit of an aside, but I think it was worth mentioning. You and I talked about this a little bit. Baker Mayfield is overrated,
Yep.
and that's part of the disappointment. And I mean, I think there's some people that are still in love with him or still think he's going to be a great NFL quarterback, and he's just not going to be. So
Right.
that's part of the disappointment.
And we'll delve into that here,
Yeah,
in the coming weeks when we preview free agency before we
talk
get
about
into March
teams,
Madness. So we
right?
got a busy schedule coming up here, but um, we'll delve into each division and teams here and talk about
Yeah,
their rosters and the moves we think they should make.
right.
My disappointing team, and I'm gonna just be brutally honest, it's the Dallas Cowboys. That the NFC East is the worst division in football, and you couldn't even win the division with the talent that your roster has. I don't care if you have Jason Garrett as your coach. Talent alone should have won you that division. The Redskins are awful. The Giants are awful. The Eagles are not the same as they were a couple years ago when they won the Super Bowl. There's no reason the Cowboys should not have won the NFC East walking away. That's just I think it has continued to be ever since the '90s when they had their Super Bowl runs. They have been probably the most disappointing franchise since the last 20 years.
Yeah,
Um, it's not like they don't have talented teams. They
yeah,
just can't win. So that they would get my disappointing team of the year award,
sure.
um, because they should be much better than they are. So we have two more categories to go. Coach of
Sure.
the year.
All right.
Um, there are I think a lot of good candidates for coach of the year here.
Yep. I totally agree.
Holy cow, there are a lot of people that did really fantastic jobs throughout the league. Um, but my coach of the year, and I went back and forth, and it wasn't only until a week or two ago that I decided, no, it's got to be this guy for what he did with what he has, and kind of a situation that was kind of a little roller coaster with the way they handled things the last couple of head coaches. But my coach of the year is Mr. Vrabel from the Tennessee Titans. Um, you know, what he was able to do there especially going in the playoffs. That really that to me was like, yeah, you got to give it to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to take a team that barely made the playoffs and get to the AFC Championship game, um, where of course their deficiencies in their roster showed there.
Right.
Um, but that's not his fault. He can't do anything about that. The Chiefs were just a superior team. But what he was able to do with them this year, I have to give my vote to Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, and that's a good vote, and I could definitely see him being one of the top contenders for it. Um, I know this will never happen. We talked about this before too, but if I could pick Brian Flores from Miami, I would because when your front office abandons you and trades away as many of the good players as they possibly can, sacrifices the team at that time. The guy comes out and he says, "We're going to try hard, we're going to play hard, and we're going to try and win as many games as we possibly can. I don't care what they've done to us." And then for Miami to go out and win as many games as they did and beat New England in the last game of the season, and I, I feel like it's one of those awards that, success is obviously the measure of what the award is, but if you could give like a secondary award or something to him, that's what he deserves.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
understand that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In the coaching circle, he's probably getting a lot of kudos and a lot of
Yeah.
congrats for what he's able to do. But yeah, the writers that vote on this stuff, they won't give it to him. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, I mean, basically they were trying to get the number one draft pick,
Right.
um, which everybody said, oh, everybody's in the Tua sweepstakes, which we'll get into that.
That's another debate. Yeah.
That's another debate there. But yeah, so I think that'd be a good pick if you know the voters, people voting would actually look at it objectively
Yeah.
with what a coach had to go through
Had
with
to
their
endure. Yeah.
with their ownership and with the direction of the team that they're going. So um, I wouldn't scoff at that pick
Right.
myself.
Right.
So we get to the last and probably the one that everybody wants, to talk about MVP.
Yep.
Now, for a long time, I had this as a no-brainer.
Yep.
I was kind of drinking the Kool-Aid with the media and saying, "Oh yeah, Lamar Jackson." There's nobody until about week 14, 15, when
Mm-hmm.
when a certain guy with the last name of a candy bar came by, Mr. O. Henry. I I I I have them both up on my list because I didn't really know, but I'm gonna go with Henry as my
Okay.
MVP. You take Henry out of that offense, and the Titans don't win 4 games. They don't. They would have had zero offense. He was so dominant that Tannehill didn't even have to throw for 100 yards in a playoff game against the number one seed, and they demolished them. That's dominance. Um, I think, would Baltimore have been the number one seed? No, I don't think they would have won the number one seed without Jackson, but they would have been a playoff team. Because they have a quality running game, they have a quality defense. They had more pieces if they had to stick a different quarterback in there. Jackson just gave them that dynamic that made them harder to defend. But with the Titans, you take Henry out of that offense, and they can't do anything. It showed, against the Chiefs. The Chiefs were like, Tannehill beat us, and he couldn't. Um, that is my pick. My pick, Derrick Henry, Tennessee Titans. Um,
Sure.
Floor is now yours.
Pretty sure he won the rushing title this year too. So that's a good pick. Um, my pick is I'm going to differ with you. I understand where you're coming from with Derrick Henry. I agree. The guy was, I mean, it is a different offense. If you don't have him there, it's not the same. I think I was looking up some of his stats. Only one game he had like 28 yards or something. But for the most part, he dominated. And it is a different offense. This guy, I think, and they had some injuries on this team, but I look at this guy and I say, if you take him off this team this year, they are an absolutely different team overall. I equate it to the year Peyton Manning was lost for the season, and the backup came in and they stunk, absolutely stunk. I think it was Curtis Painter, and they were just abysmal. My guy is Russell Wilson. Um, you take Russell Wilson away from the Seahawks, and what do they become as a team? That is not the same Super Bowl Seahawks that it used to be. Defensively, they're not as good as they used to be, not even close. And offensively, I mean, it was kind of in shambles. I mean, they brought back Marshawn Lynch just to be a running back because of all the injuries and stuff that they had, and it just, it was awful. Without Wilson, they would not have been even in contention for where they were, and I don't even think they would have made the playoffs without him. I mean, I see them dipping considerably without him.
Yeah, and I agree. That's not. I'm not going to argue with that pick either.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I think Lamar Jackson's going to win it because
yeah,
the mainstream media, they all get together and they're like,
they've hyped him up
ooh,
so much. Yeah,
yeah, they hype up certain guys, and that's who they go with. So those are
yeah,
our awards. It'll be interesting to see next Saturday at the NFL awards banquet to see who actually wins and
right.
see if we're right on any of them.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I think we'll be right with Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, that one's an absolute no
If
brainer. I don't
we're
think
wrong on that one,
right.
I
They come up
may
with some really obscure name, They're like, well, this guy had 3 tackles, so we give it to
yeah.
you. Yeah,
So, but other than that, it'll be interesting to see if any of our picks for the other awards are correct.
yeah,
So we got about 12 minutes. We can get through. I think one thing we could talk. I think more about the sign stealing and stuff. I think as we get closer to the
sure.
MLB season, because that's going to have some ramifications moving forward, not
Yeah.
just
Oh,
this
most
year, but
definitely.
far in the future. I think, and we'll get
Yeah.
into that. I think when we do a Major League Baseball preview. But I want to touch base before we talk about the XFL, real
Yep.
quick about your feeling on the Kansas State Brawl with
Yep.
Silvio De Sosa. I don't know if you saw the penalty that he received.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
or
And I was
yeah,
watching. I was actually watching a little bit of that game. Oddly enough, I watched some college basketball games before March Madness. I want to kind of get a gauge on how some of these teams are doing. And I watched a little part of that game. It wasn't really much of a game. Kansas State was getting
right.
getting killed most of the game. And I was like, oh, okay, and I didn't think that much of it. Didn't watch the end of the game when it was live and going on. And then I heard about what happened. I was like, oh wow, okay. I missed out on that. But yeah, so then I heard about the penalty afterwards, as well, in terms of what what took place. So
So and I don't know if you watched the different angles of the video. I watched them a few times over, and he's suspended for 12 games.
Right.
He's going to be eligible to come back for their last regular season game, and then he's eligible to play in the postseason. Totally shocked by that.
Right.
This guy, now the act of the block, I didn't have a problem with.
Nope. Hey, that was a basketball play to
right.
me.
Now the act standing over the guy,
right.
So then he gets pushed. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see you'd be upset at that, but then he throws a punch.
Right.
And he just throws a punch. He doesn't care who it's towards. And
yeah,
then
he just kind of threw it out there, yeah.
And he picks up a stool.
Right.
Luckily, there's somebody there to take the stool from him.
Yeah.
Now, I just read an article today about this. And he's played 92, been at Kansas for 92 games.
Yep.
How many games do you think he's played?
Out of 92 games.
Out of 92 games.
I actually, I don't know. So, yeah, throw it out there for me.
37.
Okay.
How many? So that leave 55, right? 55 games where he has not played.
Yep.
If you hear that, what do you think? Like, if you take away what just happened, if you hear, this guy's only played 37 out of 92 games while he's been at school, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, I'm thinking he's not that good, or he's just a role player, or, something like that. I mean,
injury, things like that.
Injury, right? Maybe. Yeah, that could be too. Sure. Yep.
Out of the 55 games he has missed, he's been suspended for 52 of them.
Why is this guy playing? Why is he on the floor?
Because of conduct on the floor. He was suspended for an FBI investigation because his guardian took money from Adidas.
Sure. Yeah.
Why is this guy be given another opportunity to play basketball?
Yeah.
He should be done. He's a junior. Enter the draft. Go play in Europe. Go somewhere. He does not belong in the NCAA.
Yeah.
And of course, the university's not going to do anything to him above and beyond the 12 games because they want to win.
Sure.
So I read that.
Well, but Kansas said that they were going to suspend him indefinitely. I mean, pending any further reaction from the Big 12. But I don't.
The Big 12 gave him 12 games.
Right.
So that he'll be suspended for 12 games.
Right.
He'll be back for the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah.
The NCAA tournament until he does this again.
Right, until it happens again.
I tell you right now, if I am a coach of an opposing team, I'm going to tell him, get in his head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, man.
Get in this guy's head. Make him go off.
Right. It's kind of like the Ron Artest kind of thing, right? Just keep bugging him and see what happens, and maybe he'll throw a punch at you or something. And,
right. It just, I can't believe. If I'm Kansas, I don't even play the guy anymore. He's been reduced to a role player anyways. Why put him on the court? He's a liability.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So
yeah, but you know what? What's even more, I think, I won't say telling or important or whatever, but when you talk about this, what's up with Bill Self? I mean, as a coach, you've been around for a long time. It took you a long time to win that title, and now you're jeopardizing yourself for a guy because you're the one making these decisions. You're putting him on the floor. Why are you doing that? You're good enough, and your program is Kansas. You don't need to put this guy out on the floor. Just wash your hands of him and be done with it already. I don't understand that mentality from Bill Self unless he's thinking we need this guy to win, but you really don't.
Right. Like I said, he's been reduced to a role player.
Yeah.
I would move on. If I was the coach, I'd move on from him and just be like, "You're done for the year. We don't
Oh
want
yeah, yeah, for
coach."
sure.
So, so it'll be interesting to see because I can guarantee it between the Big 12 tournament, the NCAA tournament, he will um, have some other type of infraction.
Yeah,
I guarantee it. So last thing, we got we're at about 55 minutes. We did start a few minutes late because of
sure.
audio difficulties, so we got a few extra minutes here. It is back. Vince McMahon and the XFL.
Oh man.
Now we aren't going to have any he hate me's or anybody like that.
Yeah.
Um, they start in 2 weeks, and the reason I threw this on the agenda for tonight was I read the article while we were waiting to do the show. So I was like, "Oh, hey, we got to talk about this because I don't think very many people will be."
Right.
Um, so I was curious, and so I went on to their website,
Okay.
and I'll tell you what, this is gonna be interesting. So you have, let's go to the teams here. Two,
There's
four,
8 teams
there's
here.
8
Yep.
teams: Dallas, DC, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa Bay. So I was curious. You got some no names. Cardell Jones is in the league.
Right.
Garrett Hartley is kicking in the league. So you
Yep.
got some guys with some NFL experience playing things like
Right.
that. I think guys that are trying to have a second opportunity. So I get that. But I want to see how legit is this league, and I think you can tell a lot from who you have coaching your teams.
Sure.
So Dallas head coach is Bob Stoops.
Yep.
His offensive line coach, this will be you'll remember this name, Jeff. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. Cleveland Browns coach for 1 year, Jay
Oh,
Gazinski.
Jagodzinski, yeah. Oh,
Uh,
there's a few things we might have called him, but we'll leave those off the show.
yeah, we won't go there. So those are the two known. Pretty much nobody else is known on that coaching staff. Okay. Um, the ones that there's a couple that really got me rolling. The Tampa Bay Vipers, their head coach Mark Trestman.
Yeah. Yeah, now
Uh,
that one is a good one because I'm all over that one. Oh man, that is just a disaster waiting to happen.
but guess whose defensive coordinator is?
Oh boy.
Cowboy hat wheeling, probably traded one of the best quarterbacks in the history of the league to the Green Bay Packers.
What, Jerry Glanville?
Jerry Glanville is
Oh
his
my god.
defensive coordinator. How old is he? He was
I
old when
don't
he was
know.
old when he traded away Brett Favre.
And he made no bones about the fact that he did that, and he still doesn't apologize for it at all
Oh,
either. Which makes
uh,
absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Oh, I was
oh,
looking through these names now too. I mean, look, so the last time the XFL was around, it was about showmanship, right? I mean, that was the
right.
idea. Vince McMahon, he wanted entertainment, blah blah blah. So I don't know if he's like trying to go legit with this one as opposed to being more about the entertainment, but I mean, he's got some other names in here. Kevin Gilbride.
Right.
Remember him?
Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you right now, this DC team is not going to be good. I've never heard of any coach on their staff,
Yeah,
and the head coach is Pep Hamilton.
yeah,
Who's
Pep
that?
Hamilton.
I
Yeah,
don't even know who that is. And then I'm looking at
he was. He was Andrew Luck's coach at Stanford.
Oh, okay. So you coach a naturally gifted athlete. Um, you know, this is gonna be here. We go. Los Angeles. Name that that we'll remember. He was
Oh
once a
yeah.
promising head coaching candidate in the NFL, Winston
Yes,
Moss.
that's right. Winston Moss. Yep.
And
He's probably maybe a more legitimate coach than some of these other guys. I mean, June
well,
Jones is the Houston coach.
yeah, well, and check out his staff though. He has Norm Chow as his offensive coordinator, Jerry
Oh,
Fontenot as his offensive line coach,
okay.
Pepper Johnson is his defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
they got some legit coaches there.
there's
Yeah,
some legit coaches in LA. They might be taking theirs seriously. But yeah, then I
sure.
saw June Jones. Which team is he at? Is that
He's the
St.
Houston
Louis?
head coach. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, the Houston. Um, it's just holy cow.
A lot of guys that just they're kind of like they need a resurrection for their career. And I wonder about the excitement level of this because okay, so like we have Canadian football, we have the Arena Football League, we have the National Football League. Do we really need another football league? I mean, people love football, but we already have college football. I mean, that kind of is like the feeding ground for pro football. So, do we need another football league? No.
Well, and
In
that's
my
the thing.
opinion, no.
How do they expect to contend? I don't care if you're doing it opposite of the NFL. I really don't.
Yeah.
You can't compete with the NFL. You are gonna lose money at least for the first decade that you're in existence. So the McMahons need to understand that this is not going to make them money for at least a decade. If you can stick around for a decade, you might start turning a profit. But what these leagues are doing wrong is you have to coordinate with the NFL, not try to compete against them. And the NFL is very reluctant to do that.
Right.
But I think if you come with the right approach, you can have a successful spring type league where you develop young guys.
Right. Yeah.
But
again, that's kind of like what college is right now, isn't it? I mean, breeding ground for the NFL. Yeah. I mean, maybe what you want is more like a European basketball league where you develop some of these guys, or guys have a chance in the NFL, they don't succeed, they go to the XFL, play for a while, have some success, and then come back in, and they resurrect themselves, kind of like an Adam Vinatieri or somebody like that who plays somewhere else, or a Kurt Warner, whatever. They play somewhere else and then they come in the NFL and they have success.
Right, and we'll see. I'm not putting a lot of stock in the league succeeding. I think they'll at least make the full season, unlike the last spring with whatever it was, the American Football League.
Yeah.
They it didn't even last the whole season. So it'll be interesting to see how that transpires, but at the same time, I'm not too excited about it. So
right. No, neither am I. I kind of think, it's just the latest brainchild of Vince McMahon. He must have money to burn or whatever, and I don't think it's going to work out. I really don't. Yeah. So
yeah, either do I. So
yeah.
That I think is it for the night. We are just over an hour. So
yep.
We're better this week than week one. Still a little bit over.
Yeah, we held to our hour. Yeah.
So, again, we'll be previewing the Super Bowl later this week, and going in depth with that. And
yeah, I think we should recap the championship games and then go into what we think for the Super Bowl when we do that.
Yeah, and we'll get into all that stuff
Yeah.
that show. Um, but again, all these podcasts are obviously available on Podbean for now. We only can have so much on here, but then we are also on Spotify, YouTube,
Oh,
and
great.
Facebook.
There you
So
go.
you can find our podcasts on all of those outlets for now, and we will be looking to add some more here as we go. So
Yeah.
thank you everybody for
Yep.
listening.
Saw there
Hope
was a
you
bunch of people
enjoyed.
that joined. Appreciate that.
Yep, and right now I know there's a couple people that wanted to call in. And I think right now, as we just get our feet wet and get our foundation built, will stick to us for
Well, hey,
now.
threw it out
Uh,
there. I mean, the phone
yeah.
option is there, I guess, if get some people to call in. But yeah, I
So
mean, maybe in the next show we get something like that. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about quite a bit of football, like we said. See who we think is going to win the Super Bowl, and yeah, go from there.
all right. Again, thank you everybody. Have a good night, and we will talk to you later.
All right, awesome.